So I'll just mark that you're all here, and then you guys can start your conversation.
I have something to say before the meeting.
Okay.
I actually wanna make a motion, but I move that the council recommend the voluntary waiver of pay for this special meeting. And I wish to go on the record that I'll be waiving my own compensation for tonight's meeting.
Well, you can't make a motion.
You can't vote
At a
special
workshop
discussion
session.
meeting.
It's
Okay.
not an actual regular meeting to vote at,
Okay.
so, but it is a meeting, so you guys do get paid.
Right.
I'm gonna waive my pay. I signed something.
I
wanna
waive mine as
waive
well.
Mine as well.
I mean, you'll have to do it at the next meeting,
At the next
regular
meeting,
voting
probably, because you don't get paid until June anyway, so then we'll have to find out, how we can do that properly for you.
Right.
That's fine.
Just for the record, we want that, or at least I do, since, for one, we weren't aware that a special meeting costs extra
Yeah,
money.
every meeting you attend, no
Right.
matter what kind it is, you get paid.
So
Yeah, and
I wasn't made aware of that, and then,
when I emailed everybody,
Mm-hmm.
nobody spoke up and said that we normally do them an hour before the regular meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody spoke up that it was special pay and all that stuff.
Okay, well, we can definitely get it on the agenda for the next voting meeting.
And I may have known it, but I completely forgot.
Okay,
so.
well, it's very rare that we have
Yeah, I
one.
was gonna say, I don't remember.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah, I don't
rare.
even- yeah.
Yeah, but to be called out in a meeting that it costs $750 because I made a committee meeting.
Well, I wasn't trying to call you,
That's a
I wasn't trying to call you out, I was just
That's a
letting you know.
If you could do it before.
Yeah, if it's not gonna be a long meeting.
we're being called out on Facebook today as well.
Oh, you're
okay.
kidding.
No,
Who?
not kidding at all.
Oh,
Public service announcement.
Correct, on my own private Facebook page.
Right,
Mhm.
and you're welcome to
Yep,
do that.
that's a
so.
fact, that's right, just like everybody else
Yeah.
is. You got it.
Yeah, but
Okay.
we should be working together. Why didn't you let me know that
Oh
before?
Lord, famous last words. Okay, can we move on? We have a business meeting to run.
Yeah, let's talk about all the problems and no solutions.
Get on with the business meeting. Yeah, that Facebook page is one of the problems, let me tell you.
That
Can you put it in
Facebook
the way?
page is Lodi's savior.
That one I
You'll
did.
see.
Is that a threat?
Does that
Is
sound
that
like
a
a threat?
threat?
Does that sound like a
Is
threat?
that a threat?
Can
Okay.
can we forward the village handbook?
Correct. Move on.
Typically, when you guys call a meeting like this, the person who runs the meeting is either whoever called the meeting or whatever, committee would call the meeting. So I guess this would probably be under legislation,
it should be
or if you choose to run the meeting and she doesn't mind, you can do that as well, since you don't want to actually call the meeting.
I don't mind either way. Not really sure how to run a meeting, but
Melody, do you wanna?
Oh,
Since it's
I
not,
would not wanna take the glory away, that's all I gotta say.
Rob,
since
why
it's
don't
pretty
you run the meeting?
informal and we're not voting, we
Just everybody
Yeah, you
discuss.
just start discussing whatever your concerns were.
And we have to have a consensus for it to move forward, correct, on
Yeah.
all the little,
Yeah, cause you can't vote on anything, you can discuss and see if you have a majority with each item that you're doing. See if you have a majority in agreement to even move forward with having the attorney do research and writing it up. Okay. So, Eric, you had said you had some items that you'd like to review. Is that what you'd like to do right now?
yeah, well.
I mean,
first
the
thing-
rest of the council too, obviously.
Yeah. First thing is outdated, it's from 2012. So a concern about that is it up to date with current Ohio code?
Okay, I could answer that a little bit. According to Ted, the law hasn't changed on the stuff the majority of the stuff in here. The place that I think the law could have changed is for the FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act. And typically what we do is, that's the only place I know of that the laws change more frequently, like every couple of years. The rest of the stuff in here, Ohio law has stayed the same on. So your FMLA is Family Medical Leave Act, and that's where an employee can, request up to so many weeks off for a family emergency or something and still have their job held for them to come back. Every few years, the federal government, updates kind of like, puts a new clause in there or something, so if we ever have someone asking for their FMLA, the attorney at that time looks at the current law to make sure if anything's changed, to make sure we follow the proper paperwork. So that could change quite often, so.
And if you can by chance have an extra one of those,
I did.
I'll show what he's doing.
Okay, so that's the area that I know of. Otherwise, Ted has told me, in past conversations that the law's still the same for the other things that are written. And as a reminder, I will tell you, it was researched by our attorney's office in that year. They took several months and researched Ohio law as it pertains to villages specifically. And then their HR attorney, after several months of research and everything, wrote the handbook, and that's how it came about. So just for your reference.
And it was a different law firm than the current.
Right, it wasn't Ted, but Ted has
Goldman
told me
Rosen at the time.
he completely agrees with the laws, nothing has changed. So, if you wanna keep that in mind as we discuss.
I have some questions if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were done or not. I was just reading this over, trying to get through all of it, but I didn't get through all of it, but the, first, I don't know, pages I went through here, 15, 17. Starting with page 7 here, I find this a little confusing. Let's see here, where's that? It says here, if the clerk treasurer finds it necessary, the clerk treasurer may raise the issue with the Board of Public Affairs or council, but this policy does not extend a right for an employee to address such questions or concerns formally with the council or the Board of Public Affairs. Let me see, what was my question about that? Yeah, the employee does not have the right to address such questions and concerns formally with the council. So what, like, who brought that up? Like, what, just out of curiosity, who came up with that idea?
Well, I think it's because the Ohio law, and this is the way it was explained to us when the attorney wrote it, because we didn't know what was gonna be in the handbook until we had all the meetings after the attorney had written it. They explained at the time that council members have no administrative authority for anything in the village for employees other than very, very specific items. So an employee can't go to a council member individually to raise concerns about something in their department because council does not govern that. And the two administrative officials in any village are the clerk treasurer and the mayor. So they have to take all of those, field all of those questions or concerns for the employee. I think part of the reason that this came up is we had some employees way back that were friends with individual council members. And
Not me, for the record.
no, but there were occasions where the employees didn't like a directive that their supervisor was giving them. And they would tell the supervisor, well, we don't care what you say, I'm friends with so-and-so, I'll go to him and he'll change it for me. Well, that was a problem. And the attorney said that is not lawful because no council member has any individual authority on their own. Council is a group of 6 that only has authority through like the majority vote. The majority vote always passes something, and that council does not have administrative authority
Like a
over
day-to-day task,
personnel
right, is what
issues,
you're saying.
except in very specific cases. Like police and fire have different laws that govern them compared to regular employees. So, there are certain instances where police matters will come before council because the law says, like, they have a specific policy they have to follow. The chief can only do so many things without it then going to council because it's law enforcement and they want it to be, heard by a larger body than just the chief of police. With law enforcement, that's Ohio law, and sometimes fire department. Other employees don't have that ability. So, the employees were, in essence, some, not all, just a few, were going over their department head or their foreman or their general foreman and just going right to the person who was their friend to try and get their way. And the attorney's like, no, that's not lawful, that cannot
So
happen.
what if it's a workplace safety issue and not so much them wanting direct orders changed for their day-to-day activities.
Well, they should still go, their policy is that they're supposed to go to their department head first.
And
And if it doesn't get resolved there, they're allowed to come to the two executive officials in the village, which is the mayor and the clerk. And at that point, I've had a few instances where people have come to me because they felt that they didn't resolve an issue with their department head. So what I do is get the information from them and call Ted immediately. And Ted looks at the law and advises them, okay, this is how this needs to be handled, and we need to do this, this, and this. So it's never my discretion as far as I think
Right.
this
just
or
real
that.
quick,
Mhm.
just to be clear, who does Ted work for?
The whole village.
The whole village?
He works
So
for the,
should individual council members be calling Ted and using Ted as, I guess, a pawn, or should a council member threaten to sue citizens with Ted? Do they have that ability?
sue, I don't think Ted would get involved with that.
I don't think so either.
No, I don't think, because typically, Ted is very good. Ted's got, over 30 years of municipal
We had
law.
one person before.
Yeah, and he's,
Should council members, since we're talking about council members, what
Yeah,
they
it's
can and can't do, should they call places of business and demand that an employee get fired because they simply don't agree with somebody's political views on Facebook?
I don't know what you're talking, I'm sorry, I just don't know what you're talking about. I don't have Facebook or anything.
Okay.
So typically, a council member, their actions on their own are their own, and it's only if it's in,
I'll
As
just
a
be
member
transparent.
around
I'm calling Melody out on that.
okay.
Oh, it must be Bash Melody Day, yay.
So I don't know the situation.
It's a Miller Meltdown Day. I seen it on Facebook earlier. I
I-
call that Miller Meltdown.
Okay, well, those
This is
issues,
bullying, it's to the point
It's
of
not bullying,
cyberbullying,
it's
yes
facts.
it is,
It's facts.
bullying.
What's bullying is demanding that somebody gets fired, is trying to raise two little
I
kids.
never did that.
Yes, you did.
No, I did
Yes,
not,
you
can
did.
you prove that?
I can prove that.
Prove it,
I can.
Please
With phone
do.
records and testimony.
please do.
I could if I wanted, but I'm
No,
not as
well,
petty as
well,
you
we
are.
deal with facts here, that's the problem.
Exactly,
Alright.
and I got all the facts I needed if I wanted them.
all right,
Could-
can I
could
say
we-
something?
This is targeting.
Could we
This-
go back to what we're
Targeting,
here
it's
for?
facts.
Targeting.
Facts are facts.
This has been
Okay,
nothing
so-
but chaos
and-
since you arrived.
Sure.
Okay, but
Because
A lot
you
of
don't
people
like
see
that I'm
it.
here.
You think not,
Because
because
you
it's
don't
only
like
10
that I'm
people
here.
on Facebook.
It's
but-
not all about you.
okay, but here's the thing. The things that you guys are discussing would be
It has
civil,
nothing to do with
would be
this.
civil matters
Yes.
between
It
two
has nothing to do
people,
with this.
and the village wouldn't even be involved in it. Unless the council,
Well, she's
unless
looking for
someone went on
things
the,
to after.
webs, or that, whatever you call it, Facebook, I don't have Facebook.
Mhm.
If they go on there and say, hey, as a village council member, I want this person fired, that's a problem.
Or if
But if
they
it's an
say that somebody's
individual-
after the mayor's backside,
Or
or,
if it's an individual,
I don't even know what that means.
arguing with
Doesn't sound very
another
good.
individual, it's not even a council matter, it would never even come before our village solicitor. He wouldn't get involved in that, I'm positive.
I don't think we wanna go the moral police route myself, but.
Again, I don't know what that means either. I'm sure
Well,
what she's
I
saying.
think Ted would verify that he wouldn't be involved in anything individually someone's doing on Facebook,
Right,
unless they were acting as an official village representative stating the village says this or that or the other, then he would get involved. Because people can be, have civil matters between one another outside of their job on council.
Of course.
So that's
But
my,
to go back to your original answer, if you have a question for the attorney, I would always ask Annette first, because probably someone's asked it before and we already have a political or a
written
legal
opinion.
opinion.
because we get.
That,
triggered
and
all the
therefore,
time.
and if she doesn't have it, then she would probably tell you, yeah, you should probably go talk to Ted because we don't have that.
Right, because he does charge us, I think
Yeah.
it's quite a bit per hour for
He's,
everything.
he's
that's-
under retainer, you know, we pay him for a certain amount of hours, but if we go beyond that, and then we pay more.
And we always do.
we
go
always do,
beyond it.
because he does a lot of work for the board.
Right, but I mean, he's happy to answer questions, but a lot of these,
Noted.
things, we might have something written from them already on. Okay? But he,
Heather,
he won't
I'm
get
sorry.
involved in anything like one-on-one that's not related to council, he'll tell you that's not his realm.
I got something to add here.
Go ahead.
You go first.
No, I guess mine's the next question, go ahead.
So with the clerk treasurer and
Mhm.
you guys are both executive officers.
Mm-hmm,
Now, we have a special situation in our town, you guys are married,
mm-hmm.
right? And what if people aren't comfortable going to you? Or, you know, you had a situation where an employee was friends with a council member, that was an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But because you guys are married, is there a way we can make it where if they're not comfortable talking to you or your husband, or they had an issue with you or him,
Well,
like,
that
so,
would,
so say they have an issue with you or him, where would they go to? That's a situation
okay.
that could arise because of the situation we have in our town.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it says that they're not to talk to council
Right,
or board of public affairs in the employee handbook. That's one situation that I would be concerned about, not sure that it would happen, but just something to think about, because
well, if it
you guys
did-
are married.
Right, but you would have, I would think that person as a village employee Ted would be open to talking to them directly if they had a problem with, well, first they would need to come to us and tell us, hey, I have a problem with you, you know what I mean, and we could work that out. Because you have to go through the chain of command before you go any
You only
further.
follow the chain of command. You can skip somebody in the chain of command if that issue is with that person.
Right,
So
Okay.
that's what I think he's trying to say
okay,
is with the conflict of interest.
well, there is
And they
no
want-
conflict of interest. We are both elected, and
I understand.
anybody can be elected to those positions, and
Sure.
we've had married council members before.
Sure.
It doesn't matter.
We know it's allowed by state law, we understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Not
but my
arguing that.
suggestion for those people would be, go directly to our village attorney and tell them, hey, I have a problem that I think Annette, treated me this way, or I think Rob treated me this way, what can I do? I would have that person go directly to, because council would have no authority over it either. Because you guys don't get executive duty power. I would encourage any employee, if they have a problem with Rob or me, then that would be their next step. Just call Ted and Ted will guide you. Do you agree with that, Rob? Yeah.
You can write it in there if you want.
Yeah,
to.
we could write that in there. Because that way they have that avenue if they need it. Because council, like you guys we can't reprimand each other as elected officials. I mean, there are certain instances if an elected official has done something illegal that they can be removed from office and such. But we can't I can't say, Aaron, you're suspended for 3 meetings, you know what I mean? Or Aaron can't say that you can't come to work tomorrow, stuff like that, because we're all elected. So I would encourage those people to go right to the village attorney. Does that help?
Yeah, it does, I'm still gonna ask Ted.
Oh,
I
that's
still
fine.
would like to see if there's a way we can make that possible.
What possible, for them to come to council?
Mhm.
I don't think he'll agree to that, because you got that in, that letter that Irv had written, and council members don't have individual authority at all.
I've not asked my individual authority, I'll ask,
Okay,
they could come to council as a whole if they're not comfortable going to you guys, or if they have an issue with you, it's gonna be really
Or
hard. to
anybody could come to a council meeting and speak at public, speak.
oh
at
yeah,
council.
people, they can
I'll
always
ask
come.
Ted about it,
Are-
that's fine.
Are town employees forbidden to speak to council members?
They can get, in trouble if they come to a council member about a problem at work and did not go through the chain of command and what they're supposed to do. Now, for just
So
speaking to you.
say they're friends
Mhm.
and they're not, and the council member is not speaking to them as a council member, but as a friend. That's forbidden too.
Well, you're never just a friend, you're always a council member, no matter what, to the employees. And Ted has said that
Both ways.
before, you can't separate yourself and say, hey, I'm not a council member right now, I'm just a friend. You're always a council member, is what Ted has always told. And Irv
So
has
even
told.
on Facebook, are you always a council member?
Yeah, I don't, but unless it's your own personal business, if you're talking about the
Sounds
village.
like we're just picking and choosing when we wanna be council members now.
What
Well,
section
I'm
is
just telling you what the attorneys have told us in the past. Like,
Well,
because someone
We'll have
would
to follow up on that one then.
Yeah, okay, because we've had someone say, well, I wanna just be a citizen and talk as a citizen, and they've said, well, you're always a council member, no matter what. But that, you know what, we're more than happy to get his opinion to help answer that.
So in the harassment policy on page 10, you wanna read that in? Section C on page 10.
Any employee who believes that he or she has been subject of harassment, or anyone who has knowledge of harassment or discrimination should report the alleged charge immediately to the clerk treasurer. If this would prove to be uncomfortable, they should report the alleged incident to a member of council.
Okay, that's for harassment. That's for harassment, like if that would be, is that under the sexual harassment part?
Yes.
Yes. There, that's a specific
Well, the
section.
subject is harassment.
Okay, let me see what page we're on.
Well, you
It's
can-
under
It's under
sexual
sexual
harassment.
Yeah, it's under the policy of harassment, but is under the subtitle of sexual
Yes,
harassment?
it is, cause it starts reading sexual
Right.
harassment also includes
Well,
right
no,
before it.
Section C is another section.
Okay.
But it's
What
part
page
of
are you
the,
guys on? Can you tell me?
Well, it
page
goes-
9, it starts in 9, it says sexual harassment includes, and it describes it. And it talks about sexual harassment, and then it continues to C, it goes A, B, and then that's C, so it's the next page, so I would assume it's
Okay.
under.
Harassment has, harassment in the workplace, if you look at A, is based on a person's race, color, ancestry, place of birth, sex, religion, national origin, age, handicap, disability, military status, or other statutory protected class. That's harassment. So if it's one of those or sexual harassment, and they don't feel comfortable coming to me, then they're allowed to go to the, but just because they disagree with something, like if I say you need,
So is there a list of, so they can come to council then is what you're saying? One
Oh,
says you can't, one says you
well-
can, depending on what it is.
if it's the harassment, the policy.
So is there a
written that
list
they-
of reasons they can come to council, like harassment would be on that list? Is there any more that we're unaware
Not
of?
that I know of. That's the only place I've ever seen it, is in the harassment section.
Yeah, well,
So,
it's a little confusing, we need to make that clear,
okay,
because we were just discussing if somebody had some kind of issue, I didn't say what issue, but harassment might be one of them, that they're not comfortable coming to you, then they can come to us.
right, it's going to be very
So-
specific though.
Sure, that's fine.
Right,
But it
okay.
needs to be clear, cause there's a section in this where they're told not to talk to
You're
council.
right, there
And
is.
then there's a section in here that says,
Says
hey,
they
you
should,
can, so that's
right.
very confusing.
I understand that. Let me
So-
write that down. Harassment C needs clarification.
Cause if I was reading this as an employee, I'd be like, well, it tells me here I can't, but if I was getting harassed, I could. Like, we need to clarify that.
Okay, so you would like to know which instances they should come?
Well, no, I'd like to rewrite this so we can make it clear. So the section that says not to talk to council, that needs to have a little subsection. These are the only things, it shouldn't say not to talk to council. It should be clear what they're not allowed to talk to us about. And then
Okay,
also, here's a example of what they are allowed to, so there's no confusion there.
okay,
And then if there is other things they are legally allowed to talk to us about, that would be
we
nice.
should list those.
Yes,
Okay.
so it's clear to employees, to everybody in the village, what they can and cannot do.
Okay. I need to step back a second. The first the other question was make clear what they can talk about. And if they had a problem with me or go to this, write it in here to go to the attorney, right? That was one we talked about,
Yeah,
clarifying?
yes.
Yeah, I
Alright.
didn't agree with that one, but
Oh, you didn't?
no.
Well, who do you think they should go to?
Well, I'm gonna talk to a lawyer to see what the options are about that.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'd like to,
it's harder when when it's elected officials.
I understand, but I'd just like to see the law on that.
Okay. All right. And then what was the thing before that you wanted clarified? Was it about,
I don't recall at the moment, it'll come to me.
okay, think of it so I can
I
write
think
it
it
down.
was,
Was it Facebook?
Was it about calling the
It
attorney?
was asking about
Well-
calling the attorney, civil matters.
I just wanna make sure I don't
we
miss
mentioned that we are, once we're elected, we're always
Oh,
a public official, so the town employees could not speak to us, so
okay. Yeah, I think what could really help is for me to get
you
these
said you could
questions.
never even act as a friend anymore, which
Well, no, you can
seems
act as a
weird.
friend, but you can't be under the guise, hey, I'm not a council member right now, tell me everything you wanna tell me. Because then they're still they're not following their procedures, they're not going through their.
Where's that procedure in here that you're talking about?
I didn't say
Right.
there was a procedure, I said that the attorneys have told us you're always the council member, you can't just turn it on and off.
Well, how would a town employee know that then? Cause they're not a public official.
Isn't that the open door policy? That they have to go through the chain of command?
Yeah, they have to go through their chain
Well,
of
no, I'm
command.
talking about just talking as friends.
Oh.
Well, you can talk to anybody as friends, but if they're gonna start griping and say, hey,
Or want you to act on
or
it,
want you to
right?
act on something,
Or
yeah,
if they
let's,
just wanna vent and don't wanna act.
they have to go through their, the way I understand it, they're supposed to go through their department head first and then follow the chain. Because we had that before, we had employees running to their friend on council and then they'd come back to the department heads, and this has happened. And they're saying, hey, this person's got my back, I don't have to listen to what you say. And that's not the way that it runs. So I see, there's a lot of, get lost in the details here, but there's a lot of things that have happened in the past. We've had
Right,
council
well,
members
you're
threaten
taking it
employees.
to an extreme, I'm just keeping it very simple as far as
I'm trying to
speaking to
understand
one-
what you're saying.
just speaking to one another.
Well, you can
I
always,
feel like that's very frowned upon here in Lodi.
I don't think it's frowned upon. I mean, it's great if you come and say, hey, you guys are doing a great job, everything. I think it makes, employees very uncomfortable if people, and they have in the past, come and start drilling them about, why are you doing this? I don't think it should be done this way, all that, and the employees, it's really hard for them because they have to follow their boss.
Right, but that would be more rules for us, not for an employee.
Well, it goes both ways for their chain of command. If they have a problem that they need resolved, they have to go through their chain of command. They can't just run to a council member because a council member has no administrative authority over the employees or anything they do. So council members have,
So you're not saying that, so they don't lose their First Amendment right after they clock
No.
out? They can go home and call anybody they want.
well, after if it's a work-related problem though, they would have had to have gone through their chain of command and gone
Well,
through.
not if they're not asking for anything directly to be done at all, they could still call and,
I don't know about that. Ted would have to weigh in on that. I really don't know the answer to that. The attorneys have always said, do not go through the chain of
Like,
command for
don't
where
have
council
big
members have no
discussions.
authority over personnel. So I don't know, John,
okay.
okay?
I'm not asking these questions, I don't believe these guys are, because we're trying to have authority over employees or anything like that.
Yeah, I think you're taking it wrong.
Oh, well, no, I'm trying to help you get,
Like, I'm bringing some of
Understand.
these things up because they don't make sense, it's
Okay.
kinda confusing, but I'm not trying to ask this because I wanna go boss employees around,
right,
or be their boss, or have any administrative authority over them.
yeah, that's understandable. But some realize that this was written by an attorney and, only Ted will be able to answer the more intricate, items that you're asking about.
Sure.
Okay, cause we've just followed it at face value, and he can get more in detail with you about, all the small stuff, or the littler things that you're asking.
And Ted's not the one that did this handbook.
No, but he agrees with the handbook completely. Well, he said he agrees with the rules in it. But-
Wasn't employee, that was her kind of main thing, was an employment attorney, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
she was an employment attorney, and her specialty was HR, and she spent months studying village law. So, the more detailed questions that you have, I'm not necessarily gonna know the right answer for it. But Ted will.
I can just speak on this a little bit. I have never been told they know when I have talked to council members, I've told people that, and I've never
Been reprimanded?
been reprimanded, yeah, that's a good word. Now, there are times when they come down during work hours, and you get questioned, like, what were they doing there? They're not allowed to be there talking to you. So I don't know about other departments and stuff like that, but whenever they see that council or board is down at our department, they come and go, what did they want?
Who's they?
Whether Tracy,
Superintendent.
Joe, just asking, is there something that they wanted particular? Because we're not allowed to do things unless we're told by the administration.
Sure.
that's completely fine. Like we made this, had this conversation before. We are not to come down and give orders.
Right.
And that's completely fine, because that's why you have a boss.
Well, I was just trying to answer his
Right.
question, that I think that's what you were asking, right?
That part is
No, I mean,
understandable, 100%.
yeah, nobody wants 7, 8 bosses.
Yeah,
Right.
that
Right,
would be
right.
chaotic,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
But I mean,
I
I've talked
understand
to
that,
council
yeah,
members
we
outside of
schedule
work, it wasn't a problem, that's, I was
Right,
just letting you know.
right, general conversation
I
is general
think we also,
conversation.
as council
It's
members,
different
need to be
when,
respectful of their work time.
Like
Oh,
if,
absolutely, yeah.
let's say Cody, you went to one of these guys and said, hey,
Oh, for
I
sure.
don't like,
Yeah.
my foreman, I want you to do something about it. That'd be different. That would be a problem because you didn't go through the chain of command.
But could you go, hey, I'm having some problems with my boss and I'm calling you as my friend. I think he's asking, like, is a conversation like that okay versus, hey, like, I'm calling you,
Because I want to raise, or I
Yeah.
shouldn't have to work so many hours, or I want
I don't know.
overtime.
We're
I think
gonna
he's
have to
asking,
ask him.
there's like a difference between, like, general griping because you're friends
Mhm.
versus I'm coming to you because I view you as a person in power.
Right.
So
And-
are you trying to define the line?
Well, I guess there's a fine line, but yes. And we're going from one extreme to the other, so.
Right.
No middle
Let's
ground.
have Ted answer those for you, okay? Because he will know the legal answer.
And I think that's just the revised code we've already spoke about, which directly states that, what was it, 12303, I believe, that we can't go down there and, act as a boss or tell them what to do, but again, nobody's done that, and that's not what anybody's intentions are, and that's not why we're here reviewing
Right.
this.
I think friendly conversation is always gonna be fine. But let's let Ted answer your specific questions so that you guys can hear it from him and his perspective, because I don't wanna guess. Okay? I'm sure he's happy to answer those things.
You have something else on here? Did you have something else?
Yeah, I want to get the elephant out of the room here. Of course, and you had the group text that went out to us with a former employee that was let go for the at will.
Group text.
I'm
I didn't
sorry,
get a
what?
group text.
Well, I was in on it. I was tagged in a group text.
Oh, it wasn't something I sent.
No, it was nothing you said.
No,
It was
some
from a
within-
former employee.
A former
Oh,
employee
I
sent
didn't
one
get
that
that.
to a group of individuals, right?
Correct.
I didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what my concern is, that it was the at-will thing was done.
Mm-hmm.
My concern with the at-will thing is, I don't agree with it. I understand that Ohio has that law.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the private sector, yes, I think that's fine. I guess you can do that. I think for the, in my opinion,
Mhm.
for the, this kind of sector, the, working under a government is, I think it's, I don't think it's right. I think it's unprofessional. Now this gentleman can't take his license that he had and go further on to another municipality. For most part, that municipality is gonna wonder what happened, and that municipality won't get any answers. So the individual has no clue of what he had done and was let go for no reason. I think it's a bad taste, and that's just my agree, and I would not, I don't feel that we should have that right to do the employees like that.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I do know it is Ohio law, and that I don't know that you can erase Ohio law for a municipality and say they can't use it. The other thing is, Ted could weigh in on this. The other thing is, that was a Board of Public Affairs situation, and they have their own legal authority over their employees that council has no say in. So the way they chose to do what they did was well within their right according to law. And council, I think a good thing would be for Ted to have a session to explain to you the rights of each individual elected body. Like, the board has all of their own rules and they're not governed by council. The only thing council governs for the Board of Public Affairs is you have to
Appropriate money.
Yeah, appropriate their money. You have to approve their bids if they're over 70, it's almost 79,000 now. And, you set the number of employees for their departments and the rate of pay. Otherwise, they have their own individual legal authority over all of that council has.
Council
doesn't-
comes into play though when there's a legal liability for
Well, I understand what
for
you're
a
saying.
wrongful termination.
Right, I
So just
understand.
because it's a fire at will state, that means just cause you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
Cause then you open the door for legal liability. Somebody could say, well, I believe I was let go because I was discriminated against, or
Right, well.
for whatever reason.
I
and-
know Ted would say anybody can sue you for anything,
Right,
but I agree with you that council would have
but,
to deal with
but
that.
we shouldn't do that. That's not best practices, right? We
Well-
don't wanna take that risk.
That's
so-
something, we'll have to ask him if you're allowed to govern that for the other elected body, which I'm doubtful that we are.
Govern what?
Govern how they can
How the
use
Board of
Ohio,
Public Affairs
which
does
Ohio
it.
law they can follow and don't have to follow.
We
Because I
always,
know
we have
it's,
to follow every Ohio law.
Yeah.
well, right, but this is an Ohio law, but you're saying you
Well-
don't want them to follow it.
No,
Right, but it's
Nobody said we don't want to
it's an
follow
Ohio law to
law.
fire at will, but who does that, right?
Oh,
There's we all know that-
Every employer in the state of Ohio has
But
that.
nobody fires once you get so long into, you do have protections still.
Not in the village,
You do.
not in, okay, well,
I've
that's,
already done my research.
well, the
so-
attorney would have to look at your research.
Sure, he could look at it. I have revised codes written down. But, also, with that text that we received, so I followed up on that seems to be a problem because there is a legal liability now.
Well,
At first, when there's an investigation going on and you terminate an employee, so we all know it's about an investigation now. With
actually,
multiple
I have
false.
No.
I have no
false-
idea what you're talking about, I wasn't in
Well,
on the text.
okay,
so
John,
why
I
were
have it
only-
here.
Why were
I
only
know,
a
I
few-
understand,
Why were only a few people on the text?
because
If it
the
was something-
employee had contacted two of the council members with concerns about why the board let them go, okay? Now, here, all I can tell you is I understand what you're looking at, okay? I know Ted's already talked to you about this.
I'd like to say it anyway if I could.
Well, that's fine, but what I'm telling you is during that executive session,
I'm not gonna talk about any
Well,
executive sessions, I don't know about
but
them, I wasn't in.
this, what I'm telling you is, the executive session that the board had when they made these decisions, there are many factors in that executive session that you know nothing about,
Right,
okay?
but the law states, if you let somebody go before the investigation is complete, it's no longer in good faith. Meaning,
All I can say is you don't have all the facts.
I do have all the
No, you
facts.
have facts on one
Do you have
aspect.
a law degree? I'm just asking.
No, and I think that's irrelevant.
Well, John, I'm trying to tell you that there's more to situations than papers in front of you. Okay, you weren't at the executive session, and I'm not allowed to divulge what was discussed there.
I didn't ask you to.
I know, but your situation here, you need to talk to Ted, because I'm sure he will guide you on what you're asking.
No, I've already talked to Ted, he's unwilling to guide, so maybe we should seek outside counsel.
Well, we have a village solicitor.
Maybe we should think about getting a new one.
No,
So
Ted
spend
has
more
It's
been,
a
taxpayers'
two-year
money?
contract right now.
yeah, and Ted's in a contract, and Ted has been, never steered us wrong in 30 years. I think you just.
This seems wrong.
Okay, and it appears on surface to you, but you don't have all the details.
Well,
Nor should you.
maybe-
Nor should
The
you,
Board of
yeah.
Public Affairs took care of it.
Yeah,
Your
it was
employee.
their
Yeah, I
decision,
see
and
what
council
you're
doesn't,
This is why we
council
have-
doesn't
And
have
then
authority.
24 days later, he was cleared of all false accusations.
But what
Are
I'm
you
telling
supposed
you,
to be discussing this right
no,
now? I don't
this-
think so.
this-
This is public record. I
That's
can
fine.
absolutely discuss this.
that's fine,
Anybody can go get this from
okay.
the sheriff's
But what I'm
office.
telling you is you don't have
Public
all,
record.
all
Says it
the
right here.
information of what,
Public records.
that's fine. But you don't have the information from what was discussed in that executive session, and that was the board's legal right to do what they did, and it has
So,
nothing to
so
do
I'll
with
just
this
sum it
council.
up. I'll close with this on this situation.
Okay.
While I don't know
Right,
what's behind the scenes in executive session, to me on the surface, or for the public or for anybody else, it doesn't look good, right? So to me, if this was going in front of a judge, you know, doesn't really matter what Ted says, you know, it would be up to the judge to determine whether this firing was
But you
legal
don't,
or not.
you don't have all the information.
I do not.
What if that has nothing to do with why he was fired?
It may not, but it certainly, if it doesn't, then it certainly seems like there was, what do you call it, so, you know.
Mishandled.
No, if you were, like, to file a grievance and then, what's the word, I can't remember the word. Recrimination or penalty for doing something. It seems like he was targeted, that's all.
Well, that's an assumption. And I understand, because you're looking at one document, that that's your assumption.
Yeah, full of
But-
facts.
Yeah, I understand that you're assuming, but I can only tell you that there's the executive session was, I can't discuss what was in it, but they were well within their legal right to do what they did.
For instance, if you're my employee and I fire you because you are constantly tardy, that's a good reason to fire you, right?
Absolutely.
And then once I go to fire you, someone says, hey, I think he was stealing from you as well. Or he was, you know, I think he was stealing from a business. And if you knew that, then you would call the sheriff's department and have them investigate that. It's a
Right.
totally separate
But,
thing.
right, and if somebody was consistently tardy, there would be records to show that.
Would there be?
There would be.
Well, I
And
don't
if-
know, because,
Personal file.
If there's
There should be a
not,
personal
if
file on
there's
that.
not,
but here's a good
but if there's
comment
not,
for
then
that.
we're not doing a very good job
Well-
of documentation, which again, if it went to a courtroom, you know, you're probably gonna lose that case 99% of the time because you don't document things.
Well, part of the thing that I do is I'm the official record keeper of the village, and I think I talked to you about this when you were in my office one day. I only have what the department has given me, okay? I collect the records for the personnel files, and, if they do, like, I know that all, the Tracy and the two chiefs all do it differently. Keith told me that he gives verbal stuff to his officers all the time and doesn't write it down. Tracy does verbal stuff, and so does Chris, and they don't write it down.
If that's true, then as counsel, to protect ourselves from potential lawsuits, I think we should change that. And
Well,
make that something that needs to be documented, to protect the village
Well, you
and the
can't-
taxpayers
It's gonna
from
be,
potential lawsuits.
it's going to be a difficult thing to determine, like, what things do you document, what do you don't, what don't you?
Things that are worthy of firing an employee. Like every other job does in this modern age.
Well, we can talk to Ted about some guidelines for that, because right now, all three department heads do it completely differently. They all do it, sometimes they write people up, and then like Tracy, if Tracy writes someone up, he brings it to me immediately, and I put it in the person's file. Like, there were two, emails that, in the file that you had requested, that were there. His verbal stuff, I don't even know about. Keith, I know, told me that he does a lot of verbal, talking to people, and he doesn't write down everything. He'd be doing it all day long. And, like Keith's disciplinary files, I don't see them. He keeps those files on his own, unless, there's a public records request for the files, then I have to gather what he has. But I don't even know when he's talked to someone or when he's written someone up. Chris, I think it's a mixture. I don't know if he keeps his own files, but I think Chris gives me everything, but I'm not sure. Because each department head has their own management style. But I
Right,
see,
so I think
should
that-
there be guidelines?
Yes.
That's a possibility. I don't know. We'd have to ask Ted what he recommends.
I would have to say that would be a safer bet to have everything documented. Hearsay is not a good thing. I don't believe in a hearsay. Well, he said this and that, he did this and that. Well, that's all hearsay. You have proof of him doing that.
Right.
I wanna see proof. If we're firing somebody and we don't have proof, then we're gonna get sued. That's what I see.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting frustrated here in the last few months of employment in our village. I feel like it's a revolving door. It's still like that. And I didn't want to bring this up because I know I'm not supposed to, because I'm a council member. But if I'm not mistaken, the council is built the board. They taught me that at that
That's
at that
right.
thing. We put that in place.
A
So what
village
is the
has-
board doing?
What?
What is the board doing
What are they
to
doing?
allow this to happen? And I watched the one board meeting that Eric had recorded, and they made Mark the next guy up in electric department foreman.
Mhm.
Problem with that. That wasn't voted. That was done by Tracy saying that he's
But
the
Tracy
foreman.
has the legal right to appoint anybody in.
Tracy
in-
does?
Yes,
Well,
he
I think
does.
what he,
Board of Public Affairs shall have the authority to employ subject to the number of employees specific in the pay ordinance from the year to year. Terminate, promote, or demote all personnel employed by the Board of Public Affairs. And the superintendent of the Board of Public Affairs shall have the ability to recommend
Well,
the employment,
I understand.
termination, promotion, or demotion of all personnel employed by the Board of Public Affairs.
Okay, no, I see what you're
So
He
saying,
it wasn't
recommends,
voted
he
on?
can recommend.
it wasn't voted on,
It was not voted on.
but,
so we don't follow our own policies that we already
Well-
have.
okay, but Ted,
It's not necessary.
Ted said that Tracy has the authority.
I don't see it in here.
I understand, but I'm just telling you what was said, okay, I don't know.
This is why we're doing this handbook.
Ted, like in Seville, their department heads have the authority. I know that there are times when the board can vote on things, but they don't necessarily have to. But I understand what you're saying, it's written that way, but Ted has said that Tracy has that authority. So these are questions that we'll have to get him to come and answer for you. I understand what you're saying.
With
But, and plus, you have to remember that council does not have authority over the board in any way, shape, or form with their employees. I know you may disagree with some.
Not with the employees, but we did, but we actually do have the right. If you don't have a superintendent, you can have the board over all the departments and what gets done. If you do have a superintendent, you don't have to have a board.
No, that's not accurate. Here's the way it is.
Pretty sure I read that.
No, I think you're you're using the wrong terminology. In a village, you either have a board of public affairs with a superintendent of utilities, and that's, Ohio, when you have a village that follows the
That's a
basic.
statutory village.
Statutory village, and that's what we've always been. So automatically in a statutory village, you have a, board of public affairs and a superintendent of utilities who works for them, and they govern all that. Now, if a village chose to, they could change and not have a board of public affairs anymore, and then you would have a village manager. And the village manager still wouldn't work for council, they would work for the mayor, because council by law has no employees.
He wasn't asking for them to work for him.
No.
No, I know that, I'm just saying, I'm just stating a fact. So if you chose to do that, you would have to have a majority of your council decide to get rid of the Board of Public Affairs, which in my personal opinion would be a huge mistake, because the board, you were at the last board meeting, they are very specialized in what they do, and it is involved, and the people on that board know what they're doing.
So the important thing we need is, this reads that there should be a vote and there wasn't a vote. So we need,
And Ted has
so what's
said
the
that
point of
they,
having an employee handbook or asking why Ted says he has the authority, but it's written this way?
I agree,
We
we
need to
need to
figure that
fix
out.
it, right.
Going back to the at-will thing,
Mhm.
I believe we can write a policy where employees don't have to be fired at will. And we can write a policy.
I don't know, that would be something Ted would
Yeah,
have to
that's
answer.
something I would like to do. I would
Okay.
like to get rid of the fire at will, so
Well,
employees
You
have.
would have to have a majority of council in order to do
Sure.
that.
I know, that's why we're here, we're talking,
Okay.
saying something that I would like if everybody else.
So
liked
you'd
that.
like to get rid of the at-will?
Rewrite it so employees are no longer fired at will, we have a different policy.
I just, yeah, cause I feel that that's, you're on the grounds of being sued, and I'm not, we've already had to make a settlement with the supervisor,
So
I
here's
know.
my question.
Yeah.
If you get rid of the fire at will,
Mhm.
what would you replace it with?
A disciplinary policy.
Yeah, so,
Like so many warnings,
like bigger
so many
cities do that, yeah,
write-ups.
there's a clear plan of so many write-ups and then how that is handled.
Corrective action, there's all kinds of.
That was talked about when the attorney wrote this, and it was a female attorney, she had said, you don't want that, because that opens you up to way more liability than anything else, because an employee could say, like, say you have, it's not on unions, they have such things like that, but that attorney at the time said that that's a really bad idea for a small village because people could see, you could have a bad egg employee, okay? And they're gonna read the handbook and say, oh, they have to warn me, then they have to write me up, then they have to suspend me. I'm untouchable until I go through all these things and they keep doing the bad practice.
Sure.
We can still
Well,
add in
I-
the fireable offenses, it doesn't
I'm
have,
more concerned about all the good employees.
like one
we have.
tardiness.
No, I
maybe-
understand.
Bad egg.
No, I
Yeah,
understand.
everybody's always gonna have a bad egg, but
Right,
I
and
don't
we
wanna write,
have,
I don't wanna
I
write
would say-
policies for one bad person.
our employees are great.
Yeah.
Right, I
That's what,
agree.
I feel like not being fired at will gives them more protection and
Well,
maybe more,
we can have Ted weigh in on this
Yeah.
and give you options.
sure.
I don't know what those options would be, but I was just stating that the attorney who wrote this said you don't wanna go there. Because then they can have even more lawsuits for, hey, you missed the second step, you went from verbal warning right to suspension, you didn't give me a write-up, and they keep doing the bad things. So she said you're gonna have more lawsuits with having all those steps that have to be followed. But that was that attorney's opinion.
Well, I would disagree with that, I mean, just reading this report, the accusations are just so many that he would have been fired long before some hearsay as opposed to a disciplinary policy.
Well, it is a public record that he's referring to.
Yeah, I already showed her that, public record.
Yeah, no, I completely understand, but I think that Ted needs to be here to answer these cases.
Again, you're assuming that has anything to do with this termination.
Well, if it doesn't, I mean,
I
again,
think-
without knowing, without the employee knowing as well, if it were me, if I was that employee, I would absolutely have the lawsuit going right now.
And everybody that leaves here tells us they're gonna sue us.
Right, so you're just
Well,
But let's
taking chances, I guess.
Let me say this. You work for the village of Lodi's residents. Your job is to mitigate,
And protect them from lawsuits
Yes.
as well, yes.
if you remove an employee that's at will and give them no reason, what are they gonna sue about?
Discrimination,
They have to prove discrimination.
Right.
What discrimination are they gonna prove?
well, if you have no records of them being fired for a reason, they could absolutely win that.
But
Well,
there are
also-
no records required in the state.
So we fired an employee
Sure,
for
but then again,
harassment.
it's up to the judge then, it's not just what you think might happen, it's up to a judge, whether he
Well-
thinks that was a,
Well, I've been at federal court for village lawsuits against us several
I've
times.
sat in the courtroom for the last 11 years, not to mention the times before that, I know quite a bit about law too. I feel like, I mean.
Well, I would just tell you that we let go of an employee for harassment, and we had plenty of evidence to that, and he still sued us.
Not the person you're thinking of.
Well-
Yeah, you can get, Ted always says, anybody can sue you for anything, and they
Sure,
do,
it's America,
yeah.
but
And I understand your concerns, John, I just know that you don't have all the information. And that Ted would be the one to be able to guide counsel on these in-depth questions.
I disagree because I've already attempted.
You just
Well-
don't like what he told you.
But he's going to tell you law.
If, and it's not that I don't like what he told me, not at all. I mean,
Do you think the Board of Public Affairs would get rid of an employee that was an asset to the village? Just
well,
on a whim.
I mean, maybe if there was some pressure behind him, sure, I don't know.
Pressure behind whom?
I mean, I don't know, you're speculating, you're asking me to speculate and put myself in somebody else's
So
head.
somebody put pressure on 3 Board of Public Affairs
I
employees
have
or
no idea.
members.
Well, anyhow, we will need Ted's guidance for you guys, okay? For these questions, we can get Ted's guidance. What we need to do is he's still in baseball, every spring he plays baseball until he's done with, usually middle of May. His, assistant helps us, because he's busy every single night. He'll be done very soon, and maybe we can set a special workshop meeting just with him, so he can go over a lot of this stuff and give you guys some input.
It'd be good because this, I feel like we're making up the rules as we go, and I read that
When you read what?
about, him saying, well, Ted, or, Tracy is exempt, he's allowed to go ahead and put somebody in charge without voting. without the
you
Board of
know,
Public Affairs
he
voting.
has said that many times that Tracy has the authority.
I didn't know
But
anything
we
about
have
that, though.
We have a written policy that says it's not.
Well,
So
I
you violated
understand.
the policy, you should be written up for that.
Well.
Who's gonna
I
write him
mean-
up, the Board of Public Affairs?
I mean,
That allow you to
there
do
should
it?
be some sort of.
It's not your job,
so
it's
you're
not my
saying-
job.
So you're saying this means nothing then?
I'm saying that the Board of Public Affairs is well aware of what he did, whether they
So-
voted on it or not.
And that's how it always is. in the
They
detail.
run
So
their
then
ship
it's
the
like
way they
Aaron,
wanna run
then
the
it's like
ship.
Aaron said, this whole thing's pointless and we make it up as we go to however we want.
If you want to, you can do away with the employee handbook, we just won't have it.
That gives who's gonna wanna work for the village of Lodi like that?
Plenty of people like to work for the village of
Well,
Lodi.
sure, if they have some sort of protections.
Well, every employer that anyone works for is an
Nobody wants
at-will
to be
employer.
subject to some hearsay and lose their job over some hearsay.
That could happen in any job anyone ever has.
Not really.
You're making an assumption someone lost a job over here, say.
Yeah, you're making a big assumption, that someone lost a job over here, so.
Maybe I may not be, I don't know.
Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to speak of an executive session. But let's get Ted to answer these things for you guys, okay?
Sure, that's,
Because
some
I'm
of the-
just telling you what I know from the perspective of, I was here when the attorney spent all those months and did that and wrote it and told us why they wrote it.
Yeah.
That's my perspective, I just know what they told us. And I see,
I-
if it needs
well,
addressed.
both
we-
situations, we could be sued fire at will or not fire at will.
Right, you could,
So
and it
What-
happens.
I just feel I feel like it's better for employees if it's not fire at will, it's my personal opinion on that, so.
Right. Well,
What's that?
I'm
I
sorry,
said, I think
We're-
it's fire at work.
it's fire at work at every
Fire.
job in Ohio.
Well, I understand that, but we don't have to do that. Not every business has to do that.
But I understand what you're saying, I don't know that you can take away that authority though for the board to have that, because they're their own separate authority over their employees. Ted will have to answer whether or not you can take away that authority. for
Who's
them
this
to do.
employee handbook for?
Well, the last time we did it, the board had all the input too, they were involved in everything. Because it's for everybody,
Yeah.
but council, doesn't have any legal jurisdiction over the board side of things, other than for like the
They
appropriations.
could write their own if they wanted to.
Yeah, they could write their own, so,
That's fine, well, we should
We
probably
should
talk to
probably-
Board of Public
Yeah,
Affairs
I
to see
think-
what they think about it.
you know what we should do is I understand, everybody has valid questions here. So what we could do is get a meeting with the Board of Public Affairs and you guys and Ted, and go through this stuff, and let Ted guide based on Ohio law.
That's probably good.
Does that sound like a good idea?
Yeah, cause there's other stuff,
Or do you want, we can keep going if you have other stuff you wanna talk about.
there were, just updating things, like there's public records in the employee handbook, it says that something about things being proprietary, like what they're doing is, first it's public records, but then they're not allowed to talk about it without permission or something. We just need to clarify the writing on that.
Oh, for the public records policy?
Yeah,
Um,
I just feel like that needs to be updated, because when you read it, it's a little confusing, but
okay, public records.
again, we should probably go through the whole thing just to make sure it's clear, updated.
Okay,
Also, now we have social media, we have phones. we have
right,
all
and
kinds of
that needs to be
technology
addressed, yep.
Yeah,
That is
that-
not in
I
this.
have that written down.
Yeah, technology needs to be
About
updated. The
ID
public records
badges.
thing, I think the reason that is because you have, in Ohio law for villages, the clerk has to be the one to give out the public records.
Sure, I'm just saying the section that's in there is just a
Uh-huh.
little
Little
confusing for me
confusing,
to
okay.
read. Maybe everybody else can read it
That's
fine, but
okay,
I would just like to go over it to see if we can reword it or
sure.
make it more clear.
And we need to update
Where's
for,
that at?
Section 8,
phones and such.
Page 14.
page 14.
Okay. Anything else? Because I can start looking at it and getting it ready for you, for discussion.
16,
Page 16, what's that?
photo ID badges must be displayed.
Oh, yeah, you know what, we used to have those, I don't know that do you guys still have photo ID badges?
I think everybody does minus one.
And
That I
you
know.
guys don't have photo ID
We-
badges?
We do.
Oh, you do,
We had to go through a third party, but,
so you do have something.
I designed these when I started here. They
Oh, that's
look
pretty
like that.
good, yeah, I like that.
They're like $10 a piece.
Well,
Does the dog
You
have
guys
one?
wanna look at it?
You recommending them on the next,
No,
what do
well,
you want?
it
Will
just
they
says,
sell copies
in
of
here it says
the dog
photo
one?
ID
Because I'd
badges
buy it
must
as
be
a fundraiser.
displayed prominently. So
Especially
if
for
we're
us,
not
just
gonna
because
require them to
carry
do
like
it, we can
weapons
take
off
it
TV
out.
and stuff.
I agree, yeah, that's
You
a
have to
good
buy
one.
your own, you said?
I
No,
wouldn't
we,
mind.
the village, set up a PO for it and we got them ordered.
So
Okay,
that's on page 16, so we need to
okay, so we need to
if we
decide if you guys want them.
want them to
Well,
wear
I
them,
don't
or
mind
do you
not
want
having
them
them,
across the
they don't have to have them because of the simple fact that when you're working in construction and you're bending over and you're working on something
Oh,
that
it can
grabs and
catch.
holds your neck,
Yeah,
you can find yourself in danger.
So
So
Yeah.
can we
I'm fine
omit
with
that?
if we abolish that. That's
so
fine.
omit that, is everybody else okay with omitting that, making them wear
badges?
photo ID?
Yeah,
I mean, they've got fluorescent green shirts on, I think everybody knows that they're working for the village.
Right,
I will
With the
make
exception
one
of-
comment on
Sure.
that. It has helped us a few times
If you go to
when we're
somebody's
going
store,
to change
maybe you
meters.
should have
Oh,
There are,
yeah.
there are,
Then keep them on you,
right.
that's fine.
keep them on you.
Just
for
have
sure.
them-
You shouldn't have to wear it around your neck when you're
Okay, I agree with that.
down in a hole, working with
Right.
pipe and it grabs a hold of you or something happens and next thing you know, you're getting strangled.
I
Okay.
just wanna clarify, that they have helped us get in a couple houses without having.
Well, I think we're talking about the requirement of them wearing it.
I got
And
you.
all-
Well, maybe it's a good idea to require,
them
To
to
have it
have
on
it
you.
on them.
if you're going to a house,
Right.
if you're going to somebody's house, maybe that should be a requirement that you.
I mean,
wear
you
the-
probably, Cody, you probably have to have keys on you, right? A set of
Yeah.
keys for the shop,
Yeah,
put them on a keychain, have a little case or whatever that goes on a keychain,
right.
that way it's on you. I'm fine with that.
Okay. Anything else we can think of?
I have another question
Okay,
on page 12.
okay,
I don't think this applies anymore. Part-time employees working over 24 hours will receive health insurance.
now, now I think it's up to each individual insurance company, like Medical Mutual, they have a set number of hours, our people use Medical Mutual for the village. If you schedule your person over a certain number of hours, some places it's 24 hours, other places it's 32, you have to give them health insurance.
So can we check on the
We can check on
the
that,
hours?
but it would vary based on who you have for your medical insurance,
Okay.
is what the broker told me recently.
Okay.
Okay, so check on number of hours. And we've always had, we only have one part-time right now, that's, Jenny that does mowing and such, and streets. And we only schedule for 24 hours. But that's the way we've fixed that problem, when we used to have, I don't know if you were here when we had part-time employees.
No.
No, they were only allowed to be scheduled 24 hours, but we can check on that.
Yeah, just to make sure, since we're doing everything.
Right. Are there other
I
things?
don't wanna run the whole meeting.
What was your
That's
question about
page
that, if it's
30.
over? I'm sorry, real quick, if it's over,
Family and medical
It
leave
says
act,
24
Yes,
hours
that needs
or over.
updated.
we make sure that's, yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna ask, you can make sure that's
Part-time
up to
working
date.
over
Yep.
24 hours will receive.
And that one we might have to update every couple of years, just update that policy number,
Yeah,
okay?
Which one was that?
family medical leave
Yeah,
act.
yeah, every couple of years or so, they add a new requirement for that,
And
so
then
that would be good.
that's section 21, I forget what page 30 something.
Before we go too far past 30, can we put something in there about direct deposit?
Oh, yes, now we have direct deposit, which we didn't then.
Yeah.
Number 30, now everything is direct deposit. There's also, if I could bring up one, our policy for reimbursement for meals is really old. I think that, I have was it you or Pam that gathered some on meal reimbursement? Pam. I have some other people's policies that I wanted to bring to you guys to look at. We probably should update that. It's a separate policy on its own, but, this refers to it. It's just really old and, you know, there's all these rules you have to follow and see if you guys wanna do anything with that. For meal when they go to a seminar or something, for meal reimbursement and travel reimbursement.
Yeah.
I'd just like you to look at it.
Revise it or look at it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll bring that.
And on page 21, policy 11-1 nepotism, it says please refer to that ordinance.
We don't have any. That's
No.
what I wondered too, that I could ever find, but I thought the same thing. I don't think we even have any.
I think that's why it says that.
John, what was it?
What?
Which one are you talking about?
I think that's why it says
Oh,
that,
page 21.
because there wasn't
Yeah, I thought
one.
you said
There
41.
wasn't one? Yeah, I know that nepotism, you can't have, I know this, Ohio law governs like
Hiring relatives.
hiring like your sister or your brother or something like that. But we will, let me see what I can find on that, maybe we can find some samples.
Okay, I have another one, page 52.
Mm-hmm.
It's about cell phones while driving.
Uh-huh. That needs updated?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want them to drive to look at the cell phone?
No. Are you guys exempt from
It's
that
nothing.
at all?
If I'm not allowed to,
Isn't that an
they're not
iffy thing
allowed
with
to.
you guys?
Yeah, it just depends on, I guess, what you're using it for.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm texting my wife, it's probably not good, but if
If
I'm
it's business
pulling up a
related, you guys are
GPS to get
exempt,
to an
right?
address faster or something like that, then it's
Yeah.
different, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought there
Well,
was
we could get the, police department's input on the cell phone thing and the fire
Yeah,
department.
because there's new laws.
Yeah.
Section 27 is page 42,
Mm-hmm.
maternity leave, military leave, and other leaves. Just wanna make sure that's.
Yeah, make
to
sure it's up to
date.
date. Okay. Yeah, that's one we've never had to use, but we should have it up to date in case.
Yes.
Anybody else have any?
So page 23, tardiness and attendance, which we've talked about a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, it does state that it's supposed to be reported to you.
Yeah.
So do you document that? So you said each department does it differently, but it says in here that each department head is to report to you.
Okay, let me see, what page you on?
23.
Let me read what it says and I'll tell you if that's what we're doing. 23.
Some people like that.
You're working on that.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Last paragraph.
Oh, you mean frequent or unnecessary tardiness,
Yeah.
absence, or extended lunch, should be reported to me? It's been a long time that someone's even had to tell me that. And I know that there was a time when in the utility department, there was somebody, but I don't remember if it was a past employee or current employee. And the department head didn't bring it up, and my suggestion was, let's get Ted on the phone and have him, tell you how you should handle that. But it's very infrequent that we have tardiness, complaints. But yes, that time it was reported to me. I don't remember any other other department having to report that to me. I think for the most part, our people are pretty good. But yes, they should be reminded that they're supposed to report it so that then we could, notate what Ted says. I mean, once in a while, someone will say, oh my gosh, I got in traffic and I was 3 minutes late or something.
Right.
But that's in like once in a blue moon type thing.
Just, yeah, but it's just for excessive tardiness.
Right, excessive.
Section 4.1, discrimination policy, that's another one, just wanna make sure it's
Okay,
up to current laws.
okay.
Which one?
Section 4.1, discrimination.
Oh,
I have a thing in the ordinance
Okay.
for the fire department,
Which page are you on?
page 7.
Okay.
It says, fire and rescue shall receive 1.5 times hourly rate. They don't do that, cause they don't get overtime, so should that
Well-
be like taken out?
They actually do if they're working, between the hours of certain time to certain time. It's in the pay ordinance that they get the rate at 1.5 times their pay.
Okay,
Yeah, so there are a few instances where they do because it's based that way in the pay ordinance.
okay.
But I can check,
In the ordinance thing,
which ordinance are you looking at?
To me, I'll get, oh,
this was just stuff I did on my own.
Oh, that's stuff you had on your own?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ordinance 32615. Yeah. Payroll.
Oh,
ordinance,
okay,
payroll.
then that's correct, because they do get time and a half for specific, times that they work, like after hours and such. So, and that's all spelled out in, our audit, they look at that and make sure that that was within those hours,
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I have another question
okay?
about, like, the police and stuff, how do they take their breaks?
Break, I have no
Their-
idea.
Cause it says they must take a 30-minute unpaid meal break each day.
Do you guys
So
do?
how are they supposed to do that?
Probably lucky if they get it.
Yeah,
So, a lot of our stuff I think needs, I might be speaking out of turn, we work 12-hour shifts now. And I think a lot of stuff's based in this town for 8-hour shifts,
mm-hmm,
so I just think stuff
That's
happens.
why, yeah.
yeah,
We
That's
just
what
gotta
I
take a
was
break when we
concerned
get
about.
time.
yeah. You know, it's really hard to make a document like this for one
For
size
everybody,
fits all.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because each department is very unique, and like I had said, there's certain laws that apply to police and fire that council does have to get involved with. Like whenever the, mayor brings up a firefighter for you,
To be hired.
to be hired, there's certain things that the law requires council to do, only for certain, positions. So it's hard to make a document fit every single
right.
Sure. Let's-
situation,
Revising every once in a while.
Would be
will help.
good.
It will
Yeah.
help us get a better,
better document,
the whole
right?
point we're here today.
Yeah.
I was just concerned because it says they
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
take
it
one,
does
and
say
it's
that,
like-
but, and they're,
But how
if
are
they're
they
out on a
going to
call, they're not
take
gonna say, see you in 30 minutes, I'm going to eat.
Right.
I mean,
Gotta
there's
take my lunch
sometimes we
break.
work 12 or 14 hours straight, no breaks.
What's that?
Yeah, yeah,
That's all
Yeah,
I-
police officers,
Look,
if
just a
they,
separate packet of a handbook.
they can appeal their
well, we kind
discipline
of
as
do
well to
have,
council.
because the handbook refers
Because
to
the
each
ORC
department's
allows
own
them to do that.
regulations.
We've had it happen before.
So they do have their own, like the fire department has their own standard operating procedures, police has their own rules and regulations above and beyond this. So there are other documents that their department heads have.
Extras.
Mhm.
They do have their own personal handbook, is what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of a personal
like a
handbook,
handbook.
yeah. This
I
is the
wasn't sure.
general,
I just wanna make sure they ate.
oh yeah, you guys do get to eat, right?
Sorry.
I don't miss many meals.
Just checking on you.
Okay, well, we can do our best to get Ted to answer for you guys, all of your concerns, and then see what he recommends for writing up the new stuff, how's that? If you think of anything else in the meantime, cause I can start trying to gather stuff, just text me or not, or call, email me. Just email me and we'll, find you some information.
I didn't, see it in our handbook, I don't think, I didn't get a chance to look through it clearly enough, but is it for an employee outside of work, if they were to get a DUI, is that an automatic termination because they have a CDL, and they'll lose a CDL as well from that DUI?
No, that wouldn't be an automatic termination, that would go to the village attorney, and then, they would have to, approve what they're allowed to do while they're here, or it wouldn't be automatic, it's not written as automatic. Could it be? Possibly, but,
Don't we have a thing where there's counseling offered or
Yeah.
something?
I mean, there's different things that can happen with that. It's not an automatic, but it potentially could be.
Well, I was just, my concern about that would be is, if you were to keep that individual on, and I'm completely fine with that, cause I believe in second chances, I'm always about giving somebody a second chance.
They wouldn't be allowed to drive a vehicle.
Exactly, they just wouldn't be able to drive.
Mhm.
But my other concern would be, does that do anything for the village insurance?
Not if they're not driving the vehicle.
Okay.
They would have to be driving a vehicle for, us to get in trouble, and they wouldn't be allowed to.
Okay, but they're not, it's not like the insurance is gonna come and say, well, we see you have a guy, you know, that has a
Right, no,
DUI,
They would be.
and now he's at risk, because when he does get his license back, now he's a risk, so we're gonna
Right.
you're gonna rake up your,
Well, we've never had
Policy.
anything like that.
nothing
not
like
that-
this ever happened.
No.
We absolutely have.
No, I mean, as far as them upping our insurance?
No,
No.
nothing. We had an employee that had a DUI
Oh, I
that,
know that.
that lost his license, and, he was a board employee when I was on the Board of Public Affairs. And I actually wrote a letter to the judge to ask that he could work or drive during business hours.
Oh, well,
because-
sometimes they will let you,
And
yeah.
so he was still driving our vehicles, but only the pickup truck, not the, the bigger trucks. And I think it lasted 6 months or something like that, and it didn't affect our insurance at all.
Right, it didn't affect our insurance. Now, if you get a letter from a judge, that's different.
Well, the reason I ask is, anymore,
Mm-hmm.
if a car hits you, your insurance gets tampered with,
Right.
even though you're not at
Yeah,
fault.
we're in the public entities pool, and, actually, they're really good about our claims. Our claims never make our rates go up. What makes our rates go up here, knock on wood, yes, in this year, I don't have the new bill yet, but, this is off subject, but I'll tell you real quick. It's gonna go up a lot this year. I have to pay it in May, and I haven't got the number yet, so I haven't been able to tell you guys. Because they every 5 years, they reappraise our buildings and all the contents. Well, they just did that this last year, and with all the appraisals of property going up so high, we have to insure it for what the property value is. It's gonna make our rate go up quite a bit. But it's either pay the rate or you don't have full insurance on your buildings. But just kinda like the county did, the insurance companies come every 5 years and reappraise based on current market value. So it's gonna make our premium go up, but most of that money will be Board of Public Affairs buildings, so it'll be paid out of utilities and not general fund. But unfortunately, the premium's gonna go up.
So there's no shopping around for insurance on that, cause
No.
it is what it is.
It is what it is. It's gonna be no matter where you go.
Right.
Other insurance companies, when you have a small claim, they up your, premium all the time. Ours doesn't. They only base it on values and such. We've never had them increase it because of a claim, which has been nice.
Cause we haven't had any big claims.
We haven't had any major claims yet, just small things.
Okay.
Anything else you guys can think of? Well, feel free to email me with, you've got another one?
It's the same, that phone thing.
The
It's
phone
on
thing?
Page 52.
Okay.
It also says that about using the phone while driving.
Using phone while driving, okay. I think we have a village ordinance now that you can't, something about not using your phone while driving, but we can look at that. Right, and
Probably needs to
I
be
think it's in the
updated.
code book.
in the code book, yeah. Okay. Yeah, a lot of this stuff is covered by other laws, so,
Right.
and if those laws change, then our handbook's on.
Right.
Well, we'll do our best to
That was all
update
I
it to what you
had.
guys like. I'll try to get a meeting set up with Ted and the board, but I'll have to check with him on when his baseball schedule is done. So it's probably gonna have to be in the next, toward the end of next month, I'm guessing, before he'll be available. But I will get it set up for you guys.
Sounds good to me. Anybody have anything else?
You guys all done?
Anybody have
Anybody have any questions, anything else? Okay, I guess I'm good too.
Motion to adjourn.
We'll get there.